supplements or, what are some of these things that inhibit and damage the lymphatic system, right?
Yeah,
And then what can we do about it to
absolutely.
improve it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'll start with diet. Our standard American diet is it can be very caustic to the lymphatic system. So our processed foods are nitrate dense foods, a lot of the packaged items that you're going to find not in the periphery, but in the center of the aisles. Those are all laden with chemicals and colors, preservatives. Those are all needing, when we consume that, our lymphatic system is part of that whole garbage disposal system, detoxing that out of our body. The other, and we'll talk further about this, the digestive process is also negatively influenced by these, by our SAD diet. So the food is a big part of that. If there's hormones in the food, if there's certain chemicals in our water sources, it will bombard the lymphatic system. And, we can have a certain amount of that naturally that we can manage. But when we're getting bombardment from all different angles, and our skin being one of the largest systems of delivery for a lot of toxicity. So we have to be really mindful of our skincare choices and what we're putting on our nails and, all the kind of things we're environmentally absorbing and assimilating into the lymphatic system. That becomes really critical. So food's big. Body care is equally important to assess and limit toxins and, preservatives, dyes, all of the, kind of top major offenders, perfumes and items that are chemically altered are overwhelming to the lymphatic system.
And that's
And then
that's
we all,
basically because it is, you're overworking the system. Is that right? So it's having to spend so much time and energy in trying to detox and remove all these chemicals, these preservatives, these toxins, that it's not getting enough attention on the cancer cells specifically, and it's also causing damage and inflammation at the same time. Is that how you might look at it?
yeah. So let me kind of describe the mechanics of the lymphatic system, because this will probably zero in on that. So that lymphatic fluid I referenced earlier, that is comprised of proteins, fat, cancer cells, and all of those toxins. And the more that gathers in that fluid, the thicker it becomes, and the more protein dense and bonded this lymph fluid becomes. Ideally, lymph fluid is this kind of milky like substance, and it should have the consistency of a watered down yogurt. So that's a healthy lymph. When we get bombardment or we are overwhelmed, that system's overwhelmed with all of those dyes and chemicals and even immune cell death, that, the apoptosis of cells, we see all of that gather in this fluid. That fluid can become the consistency is like cottage cheese, really thick and stagnated. So the stagnancy is problematic. And it's problematic because it's a transport mechanism. It should be flowing. So if it's like a highway, and I always kind of describe your lymph nodes are like your highway exits, and all your channels are like your main highway. And so what do you do when there's removal or impairment? You've got all these exits gone. There's a detour needed, and you'll get a traffic backup. Same thing occurs. You don't even have to have an amputation.
Everybody loves a traffic backup on the
Yes.
5 or the 95 or whatever freeway you're near, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they're so joyful.
Yeah, but that's a great analogy, because if there's a backup and it's slowing down, that means everything downstream from there is being affected. All the rest of your organs that are trying to remove this, this waste into the lymphatic system are getting backed up, right? Like everyone's been on the freeway, and the backup is like, it starts 6 miles ahead, right? And you're just coming on the freeway, and boom, here you are. And even at 6 miles ahead, maybe it's starting to move, but you're still stuck back here, right? And
absolutely.
so now the rest of your body is being punished for what's happening up there.
Exactly. And, where those exits in the traffic flow, every organ and gland is being detoxed by its own sequence of lymph nodes. And so if you've got a head and neck area that's overwhelmed, you're going to see that addressed or see that back up in the pancreas or the liver or in the folds of the small intestine. We have a lymph node in each small intestinal fold. So there's connectivity to that backup. And the other thing, the connection to the immune state. So if you think about that backup, let's say it's from a traffic accident. Well, the firefighters and the police, who are the emergency care providers, they're the immune cells. Well, they've got to get through that traffic. And so they're going to get delayed. They're going to be overwhelmed and really, really have a challenge getting to that site. And that's that environment where we can have the combination of the right environment where cell, changes occur from a lack of lymphatic flow. And then because of that, just naturally, we have a lymph flow. The lymph fluid is stagnant and really congested. And so if there is a cell that takes root, well, your immune response mechanism is delayed. And so we see it's this kind of snowballing effect where it can be minor, and we can even chart this. It's 6, 10, 15-year progression. So, a lot of these cancers just don't happen overnight. Like for us, it happens overnight. You get this diagnosis, you're like, I was fine yesterday and now I'm not. But the body, the lymphatic system and the environment of that tissue, that organ or gland, that lymphatic system detoxing, clearing out toxic cellular waste in that area, as well as the immune response to that area, has been impaired and possibly impaired for years.
Yeah, that's one of the best analogies I've ever heard it explained. So thank you for that. It makes it really helpful. I look at it, I've looked at it like it's a hose, right? And the hose, instead of just having water flowing through it as it should, it gets backed up with mud and little rocks and things like that. And then it gets stuck. It becomes kind of a sludge, right? Yeah. So, and then you're talking about the medical responders, your T cells, your B cells, your NK killer cells. Now, these have to also move through that now blocked sludge to get to the damaged site, right? And they can't move through it well. So, it's not getting repaired very quickly. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And we will see, the sites that might have a little better inclination or ability to get to that particular area are going to be those nodes that are closest. But if they're compromised already, we need the backup. And so that gets really, really tricky. And I will also say the one thing I haven't communicated to you guys is that the other nuance of the lymphatic system is that the only thing that makes it move is muscle contraction. And so it has no pumping mechanism. So unlike the heart, the heart is pumping the vascular channel and moving the blood. There's no pump to the lymphatic system. And so this is where sedentary lifestyles, for the individual that doesn't like to sweat, most likely they're probably not working out or, doing a lot of fitness where they're moving their muscles. And so, when we move our muscles, we sweat. Well, there's that connection because that muscle contraction moves the fluid. And so we can, to help support your lymphatic system, there's a multitude of things you can do to help that pumping mechanism. And the other nuance, this is another great joy of the lymphatic system, it works counter to gravity. So you have a situation where the heart is the level plane for the lymphatic flow. Everything above the heart is flowing down towards the heart. We have a big duct, it's called the thoracic duct, and it's right here in the whole heart zone, but it's right here in the heart area. Everything below the heart is flushing up. So if we have, let's say, a digestive related cancer or colon cancer, you have lymph node involvement there, you have strangulation maybe from undergarments and whatnot, and poor lymph flow, we'll not only see poor lymph flow of the lower torso, the pubic region, but we'll also see poor lymph flow in the legs because everything's got to move upward. And so it's not uncommon for us to see male or female patients that have lower torso lymphatic congestion and even precancerous cells or immune imbalances, prostatitis, vaginal bacterial infections, even precancerous cells. We will see lymph nodes in the groin where the leg and the torso meet. We'll see lymph nodes get invigorated. They feel kind of like a little enlarged, like almond shape, and they'll feel really hard. And then we'll also see scenarios where there's more fluid swelling or fluid retention. We see swelling or edema in the extremities, where behind the knee, it'll kind of feel, if people palpate and push in, it'll feel spongy, like a wet sponge that's filled with fluid. Those are indicators that that flow upward is challenged. And so it has a net effect, but it's counterintuitive for us, where the lymphatic system has to have a pumping mechanism, which is often the muscles, and we need the flow to go against gravity. Those are two things that can really be challenging for folks that don't work out and maybe are eating an unhealthy diet or have a history of immune imbalances of certain areas of the body. It becomes really important that they are tactful and strategic with lymphatic motivation activities.
We hope you enjoyed this short excerpt from the Health and Healing Club. This entire video, including an in-depth discussion and thoughtful and inspiring questions and answers, is available inside the Health and Healing Club, along with hundreds of hours of premium and exclusive life-changing content, practices, and holistic, natural, and integrative solutions for health and healing. You can start your free trial today at healthandhealingclub.com.